We're going to show you a simple, fast setup to learn how to TIG weld an open root. This video focuses on TIG, but you can use the same setup to practice open roots on stick or MIG and get comfortable welding across gaps. All you need is 2 pieces of scrap plate. Clean up the faces and around the edges so the metal is shiny silver. You don't need anything fancy. Anything from a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch thick will work well. Keep the corner edges sharp and square. These become your bevel edges on the root. Bend a piece of 1/8 inch filler rod into a horseshoe shape. Trim it if you have to so the ends are about the same length. We'll use this to form our gap. Put the pieces in a jig, a length of angle iron with a small foot on the bottom, with the gap rod in between. Line the corners up so the edges are parallel and everything is aligned. We'll put our first tack corner to corner. I'm using a 1/16 inch rod to connect the puddle across the gap for these tacks. I'll show you 2 ways to do this. Let's drop the hood. The first tacking method, heat up each corner with the arc, then bounce back and forth with the filler rod, building each side and meeting in the middle. Add a little extra filler, spread and fuse the metal around so you have a solid tack. Let the bevel edges gently squeeze against the gap rod. Before putting in the second tack, inspect the plates. You might have to bend them around a bit to make sure the edges and corners are all aligned. These look good. Put the gap rod back in and get ready for the second tack. On the second tack, we'll start the puddle on one corner and bring it across in one direction. This one got away from me a bit, but if you keep the rod feeding in, it can go across in one motion. We're pretty stoked on these puddle shots, and hopefully that's what you're seeing. I'm still working on figuring out how to get these longer uploads to show weld puddles in high resolution. We film all our puddle shots through a standard 2x4 auto, Grumpy Vision welding lens. Now that we have both our tacks and the 1/8 inch gap set, this is for a lay wire open root. Inspect the gap along the edges looking for wide or narrow points using a 1/8 inch filler rod. This will determine the direction of travel. You want the gap to be a hair tighter than the rod at the start of the weld and maybe a little bit wider at the end. This is a wide spot, so we'll weld the root towards it. Almost always start roots where the gap is most narrow and finish where it is wider, because metal pulls and the gap shrinks as you weld. Now it's time to weld the open root. Start a small puddle on one tack. Press the rod down against the bevel edges and over, pushing against the tack. Pull the puddle into the rod end over onto one bevel edge, and then over onto the other side. Then get the heat up, let everything melt and the puddle open up, and start moving forward. The puddle should be a hair wider than the filler rod on either side, but don't let it go too far up the bevel edges. Look at the front of the puddle. This is what I'm watching, sort of an upside down spoon. You can see the puddle fusing the bevel edges on both sides. After more experience, you can run hot and fast. Here I'm at 185 amps with 1/8 filler, looking for a diamond-shaped puddle and crease on top to know you're good. But when learning and practicing, take it easy and controlled. 100 to 120 amps with 1/8 inch 70S6 filler rod should do it. A little back and forth motion can help penetrate tighter gaps or help if you're shaky, or a slight side-to-side wiggle, good for wider parts. This is all the lay wire open root method. Check the pinned comment to find a quick overview of the pros and cons of the 3 main open root techniques. When ending a stretch of open root, pull the puddle off onto a bevel edge before terminating your arc. Now we'll show you how to tie in. Got about halfway through on that stretch, and doing these in sections is a good idea when learning, to stay comfortable and practice tie-ins, which is a clean fusion between the stopping point of a weld and the restart of that weld. Press the filler rod against the stop point. You want to light the arc a little bit back and let the puddle build, melting through to the bottom before and as you connect it to the filler rod. Pause and maybe wiggle around a bit to make sure you get a nice fuse on the back before continuing forward with the root. Next video, we'll do some troubleshooting of beginner welds. We recorded my brother's very first time welding an open root, and even with all those cameras watching every move he made, he did better than I did my first time. But there's a lot of things to point out, and I think you'll find a lot of value in it. As always, don't hesitate to ask any questions in the comments, and thanks for watching.